there's no shortage of problems to solve in Africa.
Yeah.
And the payments problem is still one big one. Africa is still a 90% cash transaction market. Yeah. That means that there's still so much cash moving around that can be converted to physical to digital transactions.
Hello and welcome to the Trade of Thoughts podcast. This podcast has been made possible by Global Exhibitions and it has been shot at the 8th edition of China Trade Week. My name is Terry Moikamba, and on this podcast, we speak to exhibitors, we speak to investors, and we also speak to thought leaders in different fields. And right now, we are so lucky to catch you. Thank you so much for coming onto the podcast. We have Leon KIPTUM. He is the Senior Vice President, East Africa at Flutterwave. First of all, let me say congratulations. Some very good news.
Yes, thank you. Yes, some very good news coming out about Flutterwave last week. Of course, we are very glad that we went through the process.
Yes.
And the judicial process in Kenya is obviously very lengthy, but the favorable outcome was what we experienced, and we're very thankful that is over and behind us now.
Yeah, we can forge forward. So we're going to start this interview with something that you tweeted a few months back.
Okay.
No. This is good. You turned 40.
Yes.
And you shared some things that you have learned over the years, right?
Yeah.
So there is a tweet. I saw it on Twitter. It was on LinkedIn, but it said, take calculated risks and follow through, else you stagnate with only yourself to blame.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very wise. Can you please expound on it?
Okay. It's a very interesting one that you picked out, because I think I had 39 different...
you did.
39 different thoughts that I shared when I turned 40.
Yes.
That was one of them. For me, one of the things that has actually stood out in my career and in life in general is that I have taken risks that some people would not have thought are even risks worth taking, including family and friends. And that has been especially within the professional side of things.
Yes.
I have moved in different organizations.
Yes.
Some that people would say are the kind of places that you stay until retirement. But I still moved.
Yes.
I think one of the biggest moves that defined that is when I made a move from one of the arguably the largest bank in Kenya
Absa.
to no, actually not Absa.
Oh, okay.
Absa into KCB. But when I moved from KCB to Credit Bank.
Okay.
And the question was, how do you move from the largest bank in the country to a bank with 6 branches? What's going on? I think even my mother asked me, are you sure?
Are you okay?
What are you doing?
Yeah.
So it was, I think that was the back of that. And then from there, I took several risks with my career, to be honest. Moving out of the banking industry into the gaming industry when there was a lot of turmoil, and especially when there was a crackdown on that industry at the time. And then away from the banking industry, further deeper into the fintech space, which is really a space that's just developing and growing.
Yeah.
Fintech is literally a term that has only been used for a number of years. So risky ventures to be precise. So the point about my point on that particular comment was the fact that the assumption is that you're just taking risks because you're crazy. However, what most people don't realize is that a lot of these risks, when you're informed, are calculated. Yeah. And for me, the question, for example, when I moved from KCB to Credit Bank, the question is, how much am I learning as a banker at the time, as pretty new in my 20s in my career, late 20s in my career. Yeah. How much am I learning in the bank, the scale of KCB, and what could I learn in a much smaller outfit where I'm actually engaging even with the CEO on a one-on-one on a daily basis, even if I'm not a particularly senior officer. Right. And that was calculated for me. It is a question of who do you become with a move? Yes. So what is the risk worth? So that's the calculation around it. But and I encourage young people even up today. I'm like, just because you feel you're comfortable in a particular place, there is a risk that could make sense. So make sense out of the risk. But don't fail to take the risk because of whatever society tells you is the right thing to do.
And fear.
And fear.
Yeah.
And fear. But take the risk even if you're fearful.
True.
You know?
I like
Fear should not stop you from taking a risk.
Absolutely. I like to say brave and afraid. No. Brave and afraid,
Brave and
actually.
afraid, yeah,
It's
makes
brave
sense.
and afraid.
Yeah.
But the thing is, when do you know this is the time to take this risk? Because, well, you've said one thing, that when you feel like you can learn more, that is just one, right?
Yeah.
Is there like something that happens? How do you know this is time for me to take a risk?
You
'Cause
don't.
You don't?
You don't know. You have to review the opportunities in front of you.
Right.
But you don't know whether it is a risk that will take you down or that will raise you up.
Yeah. Now let's talk about your, career journey. Again, so many transitions.
Yeah.
But I'm curious, like, what is that one pivot that you did and you're like, where? Okay.
Pivot in what sense? Like where I landed that defined everything? Or what do you mean?
I mean, I feel like you came from banking and then now to this world of fintech. Would you say that was such a huge jump for you?
Actually, the huge jump was not from banking to fintech. It was from banking to gaming.
Right.
Now
That's the moment.
That was a jump. That was a complete shift from what I was trained for 13 years in the first 13 years of my career. I mean, if you look at my journey, it's very sequential. I started off in sales in Barclays, then now ABSA. I moved to Barclays as an area sales manager, continued in the sales line. KCB, continued in the sales line in KCB. Then I felt KCB was too big. I was actually challenged by two of my bosses then. I can actually mention them, the late Nok Bonditi and Sami Temere, and they asked me, Leon, KCB is big, you're young in your career, you can take risks.
Yes.
Why aren't you trying? And everybody was like, no, KCB is where if you started, you retire.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah.
And while it was a good discussion, it was, are you willing to challenge yourself differently? So I made that move to Credit Bank. But I think the most interesting move in my banking time was actually from Credit Bank to Family Bank.
Yeah.
And the reason I say that, and another very interesting discussion on this, is at Credit, I was the head of sales. I moved to Family Bank as a branch manager, which many people thought was a step in the back direction, like moving back.
Yeah.
But what I realized is at that point, I had been in banking for about how many years? From 2006, that was now 2010, from 2011.
Yeah.
For 5 years. But I was in sales.
Yeah.
Which means I was not a universal banker at that point. So I had to take a step back and learn other things.
Yes.
So while I'm good in business development and growth and all that, I didn't have operations experience.
Yeah.
I didn't have credit experience. I had never approved a loan in 5 years of banking. You know, I had submitted loan applications, but I'd never been the guy on the back now analyzing them.
Yes.
I hadn't been on the risk management side of things. So I understood banking from one perspective.
Yeah.
And the question is, how do I go back and get this knowledge? And I'm already ahead of something in another bank.
Yes.
So I think that was a defining moment because it was asking myself, can you take a step back to learn things that you didn't pick up because you moved too fast? Yeah, which happened. And then now what you're talking about, the pivot moment, was that move from banking to gaming. Moving from a bank to a betting company.
Yes.
And what we know about betting companies in Kenya.
Yes.
And how, especially in that time, 2018, 2019.
It was,
It was crazy. So I moved as country manager of Betway from CDN Bank at the time. And I went and met with all kinds of things. Including the then internal security minister saying he wants to close up the entire industry.
Yes.
So that was an interesting one. But I don't think I've learned as much in my career as I did in those slightly over 2 years that I was in the gaming industry.
Yeah.
Because that was now learning how to manage crisis, learning how to manage media, learning how to manage all kinds of bad press and learning how to be the face of something that the entire society is saying we don't want to see this.
Yes.
Yeah?
Yeah. So there is a part of you that sort of, for lack of a better word, regrets
No regret.
No regret.
No regret whatsoever.
Okay.
I learned more than you can imagine.
Yeah.
And anyway, I learned that even what we consider to be harmful to the society can be curated.
Yes.
To be in its right form.
Yeah.
What we needed to understand was that gaming is entertainment.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that I played a part in actually informing some of the current regulations that came out, some of the changes that were made, because we made some presentations to Senate at the time.
Yeah.
And some of the changes actually came with very clear laws on how gaming should be handled.
Yeah.
So no regret, because there was positive outcome in terms of what has become gaming in Kenya today.
Yes.
And I'm really appreciative that I actually got a chance to work in that industry.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Now, from gaming to fintech.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that. First of all, how did your banking experience influence you getting into fintech?
First of all, fintech is banking on steroids.
True.
With Aromat. So let me put it this way.
Yeah.
I have everything to thank Family Bank for my transition from banking to fintech.
Right.
And by extension, CDN at the time. And the two CEOs that I worked with.
Yeah.
I joined Family as a branch manager.
Yeah.
I moved on to head consumer banking at the bank. And then at the same time, we were coming up with PesaPap as we know it now, the leading product at the bank. And my boss then, he was director retail at the time, that's before he became the CEO, Dr. Thuku, asked me, you're the youngest head of department in this bank right now. And you're the most digital guy. So he used to tell me, he used to call me Gen Y. And he said, you need to inform us how we should do digital in the bank. And at that time, I'm not a techie by background. I didn't do computer science or anything. I actually did marketing in university. Then I did an MBA, but I had a diploma in IT. So
Right.
I did a deep at some point. I don't know what informed you to do the diploma when everybody else was doing
Were you
CPAs and SCCAs.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think I was just interested.
Oh, okay.
So he asked me, you're the head of consumer. You're the youngest guy in this exco.
Yeah.
So can we second you to all IT projects to represent business? And that's how it began. So I sat in nearly every committee, every product committee that was working on the digital proposition for the bank.
Yeah.
And by the time we were 3, 4, 5 years in, because I was in Family for about 7 years, by the time we were 3 years into all those projects and we were launching, the question was, so who's going to head digital?
Yeah.
And well, it was now only natural that I could be the guy who could head digital banking at the bank. So I moved on and became the head of digital and now began to work directly with fintechs.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's how that journey began.
Yeah.
I worked directly with fintechs. I incubated several fintechs to push their products to customers. So by the time I was coming into the fintech world, I'm now the guy who's talking to the bankers that I was.
Yes. Which, wow,
You know,
being on the other side. Yes.
now I'm on the other side and telling banks, this is how I can work with you to drive the kind of solutions that we can build.
Yeah.
Fintech is a lot more versatile.
Yeah.
We build things faster, we build things quicker.
Yeah.
We can come up with an idea now and in a month we'll launch a product.
Yeah.
Banks can take a year.
True.
Yeah.
Banks, they're risk averse.
They are risk averse, but sometimes they need that nudge.
Yes.
So they'll find people like ourselves and say, okay, you can't do this, we can do it. So why don't we work with you?
True.
You know?
Yeah.
So that's it. That was a transition. So it's been very easy for me to move. So I mean, and now we're talking 4 years in fintech?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of 4 years. 4 years in fintech now. So it's no longer a new story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like that. It's interesting because you just answered my next question, which was, your perspective on future of payments and fintech innovation in the continent.
I just made a presentation just now at the eDigital Summit, and there's no shortage of problems to solve in Africa.
Yeah.
And the payments problem is still one big one. Despite the fact that Kenya is the Silicon Savannah and we think that the rest of Africa is as advanced as we are on a payments perspective, Africa is still a 90% cash transaction market. Yeah. That means that there's still so much cash moving around that can be converted to physical, to digital transactions. And what happens when you've got too much cash in an economy? Inflation.
Yeah.
Prices, commodities just flare and go up because there's the demand, the value of cash is no longer, the value of currency value dips as a result of that. So the future is more fintechs like ourselves coming out with new solutions that enable transactions to be done digitally a lot more. And that will only happen if there's collaboration between the fintechs themselves, because not all fintechs will build the same technology. We might build payment solutions, but another person will build an agri-tech solution, another an insure-tech solution.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, they will need to collaborate for that movement of money within the digital space. Banks as well.
Yeah.
Mobile money operators as well. Mobile wallets, which are largely run by MNOs. So we're looking at a situation where the future is in collaboration. The future is in the ability to have a very candid discussion among the players in the industry on what the objective is. And the objective is to drive as many transactions as possible on digital platforms so that you reduce the reliance of cash in the economies. And thereby giving a chance for the economies to thrive.
Yeah. And I like that. So the future of fintech is in collaborations.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you so much. Now, lastly, let's talk about giving back.
Okay.
And let's talk about Ibuka.
Wow. That was such an interesting baby. Ibuka is, first of all, Ibuka means emerge.
Yes.
If you are born in my generation and you've grown up in my generation, you might have come across a Swahili term called kutokelezea.
Yes.
Yes. So Ibuka means emerge. Ibuka was founded in 2013.
Yes.
We founded it with my very close friend. His name is Johnson. And we've been business partners since then.
Yeah.
We founded Ibuka with three things in mind. The first one was every single corporate in this market. It was a time when every single corporate in this market was running to McKinsey for their strategy and business re-engineering, process re-engineering, and all those kinds of beautiful things that McKinsey did for multiple corporates in this market.
Right.
But we asked ourselves the question, who's doing this for SMEs? They can't afford McKinsey. No. But we have the knowledge of having worked in companies where we did transformational journeys with the likes of McKinsey and KPMG and all those other huge big four that were doing transformational journeys.
Right.
And we need to apply it somewhere. How can we use the knowledge we have gained over time to even prop up someone who can't pay for it?
Yeah.
Yeah, because not everybody can pay premium dollar for the some of these transformational companies.
Yeah.
Right now, in fact, Ibuka has even transitioned to supporting artists, and just we've got a pool of artists that don't know how to take their work out there.
Yeah.
And we are beginning. We've just in the tail end of finishing a website that will actually be like an online gallery for art. Just to sort of give an opportunity for you to take your talent out there. So it's been a transitional journey. It's 10 years of asking ourselves, getting into business, organizational management for SMEs, management consulting and all that, training. And now we're even getting into talent management. To be honest, I have not made money from that from that venture.
That takes
but
time.
It has been so fulfilling.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Such amazing conversation. Very well-rounded. It's such a pleasure to have you. I wish we could keep going, but your LinkedIn is very active, and I mean, if anyone wants to see a lot of more nuggets, they should definitely follow you.
Sure.
But thank you so much for coming onto the podcast.
Thank you, Terry.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
All right, there you have it. From Leon KIPTUM, the future of fintech is in collaborations.